So you're hosting a virtual event and now you've got to get people to show up. In this video, we're going to talk about how you can promote your virtual events. Before we get started, I want to let you know that I've got a free checklist for your virtual events that you can download. The link is in the description to this video, and that thing will walk you through everything you need to do to have a flawless virtual event. Okay, let's get into it. How do you promote your virtual event? How do you get people to show up? Well, the first step is to make sure that you know exactly who you are trying to get to show up to your virtual event. If you haven't already done so, create personas to represent your target audience. Who are the people that you are trying to get to show up? You create fictional persons that represent different segments of that audience. You can give each one of those persons an actual name and identify their characteristics, both demographic and psychographic. What are they interested in? Where do they hang out online? What type of websites do they visit? Knowing this type of information will help you target them with your promotional campaigns. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that we have a firm understanding of who the target audience actually is. Once you know your audience, the next thing is to make sure that you understand what kind of content is going to get them to show up to your virtual event. You need to create a program that is going to engage them. Now, with a virtual event, I usually talk about it in terms of two different portions. One is the conversation, the other is the presentation. Presentation is what we're all used to in a typical webinar where you're giving a presentation so that people can learn or can be educated at your virtual event. But the conversation is where you actually set aside time so that the people who show up to your virtual event can network with each other. It's important to understand the different roles that presentation and conversation play when you're marketing your virtual events. Typically, the presentation, the topic that you're going to be talking about, is what attracts people to your virtual events for the first time. That's what initially gets them in the door. But that conversation, where they build new relationships, where they're able to connect with other people and network, is what's going to get people to come back over and over and over again. So you want to make sure that you've got both components and that you're stressing one or the other, depending on whether you're trying to get people to come to your event for the first time or whether you're trying to get them to come back after they've already been for a first time. Once you're sure that you understand your audience and you have created a program of content that is going to attract that audience, now it's time to start doing your outreach. And the first and most important tool in that outreach is going to be your own email database. Use your email list to get people to register for your virtual event. Create an email campaign that contains 2 or even 3 emails, and they should go out over the course of 1 to 2 weeks before the event starts. And in those emails, make sure that you are explaining exactly what's in it for the attendees. What will they get? What's the benefit to them coming to your virtual event? The email should, of course, include the date and the time, as well as a link to the registration page for the virtual event. It's also a good idea to include a link that allows them to add the virtual event to their calendar. You can put that link in the initial emails that go out, and it's also a good idea to put that link on the page that they are redirected to after they fill out the registration form. If you're having trouble creating a short, compelling email to invite people to your virtual event, I highly recommend using AI tools such as ChatGPT to write a first draft and then rewrite that to make it more compelling and suitable for your audience. After your own email database, the next thing that's going to be the most effective in driving registrations for your virtual event is to find a suitable partner for the event. You are looking for somebody that targets the same type of people that you want to have attend your event, but that isn't your competition. So it might, for example, be an industry trade publication that targets the same type of people that you're targeting. You want to find an organization that has an email database and that will benefit by being able to put their brand name on your virtual event. It makes them look good and they don't have to do a lot of heavy lifting. So it's great for them. If you can find a partner organization that is willing to send out a couple of email blasts to their own email database, that can have a huge impact on the registration for your virtual event. If you can find multiple partners for your virtual events, it's a good idea to actually give each one of them a unique link that allows you to track the performance. This will tell you which of your partners are actually doing the most to drive attendance at your virtual event. And this will help you if you're going to do further virtual events down the road and are looking for partners who will, again, get more people to show up to your events. Of course, if you have a following on social media, you can use your social media accounts to promote your virtual events as well. And there may be a slight difference in how you do that depending on the platform. For example, on Instagram, if you don't have enough followers, you may need to direct people to the link in your bio so that they can then register for your event. So you want to set that up to make sure that the link is there in the actual bio. Another thing to consider when you use social media to promote your virtual events is how you can encourage people who have already registered for the event to share that on social media and spread the word. For example, if people are redirected to a web page after they fill out the registration form, you'll want to include links on that page that allow them to share the event to their own social networks. You may also want to immediately send them a confirmation email, and in that email include those same links to allow them to share that event on social media. Another thing to think about when you're promoting your virtual event is whether or not you've got a physical location that you can leverage. For example, if you've got a permanent building, or even if there's an in-person event where people are going to be gathering, you can use signage. And you want that signage to have a QR code which directs people to the registration page. So all they have to do is whip out their phone, point the camera at that QR code, and they can easily register for your virtual event. If you're hosting multiple virtual events or longer virtual events, there are some things you're going to want to do during the virtual event to encourage people to register and attend. For example, you might want to send updates on what's happening at the virtual event to various social networks using particular hashtags so that other people will see what's going on. You might want to encourage your attendees to do the same. Make sure you let them know what hashtag to use when they're posting during your virtual event. You're also going to want to make sure that you get content from your virtual event that you can then repurpose after the fact to encourage people to come to your next virtual event. So make sure that you're getting recordings of anything that's happening, for example, presentations, and thinking about how you can then cut those up into bite-sized chunks that you can share on social media after the fact and drive people to your next virtual event. And if you're hosting multiple virtual events, one of the best things you can do is make sure that the people who come to your virtual event become advocates, become evangelists, telling other people about virtual events and inviting them to come. That word of mouth can have a powerful effect growing your virtual events over time. So to turn them into evangelists, what you want to do is make sure that they have a good time in that virtual event, that they are getting benefits not only from the content that's being presented at your virtual event, but also from the connections that they're making with other people at your virtual events. Again, that's why it's so important to think about not just the presentation at your virtual event, but the conversation that happens there as well. That's really what's going to cause people to invite other people they know to your next virtual event. Finally, the follow-up to your virtual event is going to play a key role in producing marketing for any future virtual events that you might have. Make sure that you send follow-up emails to everybody who attends your virtual event and people who registered but couldn't make it. Ask the people who did attend for feedback. For example, you might want to put together a survey, find out what they found beneficial from the virtual event, why they might come again, and also anything that they didn't like or any reason that they might not come to a future virtual event. Use that feedback to shape your future virtual events to make them better and continue to grow your virtual events. If people indicate that they had a great time at your virtual event, ask them for a testimonial, a quote that you can use on the registration page for your next virtual event. Also, look for anybody who may have posted to social media about your virtual event, especially if you set up a hashtag for the virtual event. This is a great way to grab a quote from people because they've already said something publicly about your virtual event. In addition to getting feedback on your virtual event and your follow-up campaign, of course, make sure that you thank everybody who came and send them any recordings or other additional resources. Finally, the best time to get people to register for your next virtual event is right after they had a great time at your first virtual event. So make sure that you're using that follow-up campaign to direct people to a registration form for the next virtual event that you're going to host. So there it is, a number of different ways that you can promote your next virtual event. I'm Seth Resler, I'm from Community Marketing Revolution, and a reminder, I've got that free checklist to help you have a flawless virtual event. You can find the link to download that in the description to this video. For more information on virtual events, check out this video here. Thanks so much for watching.